So Deathloop is Arcane Leon. Arcane has two studios, I think. So this is Leon, which I think is the team, if I'm not mistaken, that did Prey, not the Dishonored series. But it is, for all intents and purposes, a Arcane game. If you've played Dishonored or if you've played Prey, you know what the gameplay sort of feels like here. Although I do feel like this is Arcane's best attempt at making a shooter as opposed to it's still an immersive sim in my view, but to me, it feels a lot better as a shooter because Dishonored, you had ranged weapons, but it was never felt like a shooter, and Prey was a shooter, but felt different. Why am I not moving in this footage? Okay, there we go.
You're busy thinking about life.
I'm like watching my footage. I'm like, what was I doing? Was I looking at my phone or something? So if you've seen the many trailers that this game has had over the past year, you should understand the core premise. You play as Colt, and you are stuck in a loop, so to speak, on this island called Black Reef, and you don't know at first glance you don't know why you're there. You don't even know why there's a loop, but you understand that you're aware of the loop, and pretty much everyone on the island is aware of it. They all know that every day time resets, and that's why shit is kind of weird on this island. They kind of do what they want because there's no real consequence.
Time's gonna reset, yeah.
Yeah, there's absolutely no consequence to what's happening.
You just murdered Jim Carrey's The Mask.
Yeah, it does look like The Mask, yeah. So they are also aware that you are here and you are trying to break the loop. And because everyone kind of doesn't want to go back to, I guess, a normal life, they are trying to prevent you from breaking the loop. There's a lot more to the story that you find out fairly early on, but I don't want to really talk about it concerning, like Cole and the main antagonist in the game, Juliana, who is sort of the person that hunts you down every now and then. She will like enter the area you're in and like be a much more dangerous threat because she has powers and she can really just fuck your shit up really quickly. So they have a relationship. They talk fairly frequently throughout the game, and their banter is really good. You get hints of them having a rapport before the game has started. So it's sort of like peeling back the layers of why she takes such satisfaction in killing you, why she's so adamant to stop you from breaking the loop, and your entire role within all of that. Okay. So from a story perspective, it's quite interesting because I'm like still kind of like learning, why am I here? What is actually happening on this island? How did we get here? And what is my role in this entire thing? But the crux of oh god, the crux of the gameplay is you have to break this loop, and the only way to do that is by killing 8 what they call visionaries, and they are like 8 citizens that keep the loop stable, so to speak. They all have powers. They are all surrounded by a lot of protection because everyone understands that they are crucial to keeping the loop alive. And you've got to figure out a way to kill all 8 within one loop. You have to destabilize the loop all at once. And that is a bit tricky because so the structure of this isn't that you have one big open world to explore. You actually have 4 districts of Black Reef to explore at any given time. And when you select a district to explore, you are in that district for that time of day. Time doesn't really progress while you're in the district, but as soon as you leave, then time will move from morning to noon, or noon to afternoon, and afternoon to night. So you've got 4 times of day. And the districts change based on the time of day that you explore them in. And the people that are in each district change according to the time of day too. So at the very beginning, it almost seems impossible. You're like, I have 8 targets, and at any given time, there's only 1 in each district. So already just doing the numbers there, you're like, I can only get 4. How am I going to get 8?
How do you get,
Yeah. So
Oh.
a lot of the early game is about experimentation. The game is very good at guiding you towards the next big discovery. So you always have what they call leads, which
Mm.
gives you like information on your targets, and it says they are, target like a target I killed yesterday. Fear, she will always be in this place in the afternoon, so you can go there and kill her. But in doing so, you probably learn a bit more about her habits. You learn, oh, actually, she's also in this district at this time, and
Mm.
oh, coincidentally, she's there when this other person is there,
Yeah. Okay.
so to speak. So it's like, okay, so how do I, devise a way to get both of them? You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Okay.
So yeah, I don't feel lost at any point. I'm never looking at it's funny, the sort of leads reminds me of Outer Wilds in a way, because it's like
Mm.
it's almost like entries on a board that are connected by string. So you like zoom out and you see this big like mind map of possibilities, and then you like hone in on like
Mm.
what is
Okay.
next that I can work on. Additionally, the visionaries are the ones that have what they call slabs, which are what give you your powers.
Chocolate
S-
slabs. Yeah.
Chocolate slabs.
Mm.
So you can see I'm busy using like a sort of blink, which if
Yeah.
you've played Dishonored should be very familiar. It's almost identical to how blink works there. I think it's called shift here, if I'm not mistaken. Um, you can only have two at a time, and they are, unlike Dishonored, they are an equipable item like a weapon. So every
Ah.
time
Okay.
you choose to go into a district, you can change your loadout. So you've got to choose which two powers you take in, which three weapons you
Uh.
take in, stuff like that. But you only get the weapons by killing a visionary. So at the beginning, you have nothing. So at this point in the game, with the footage that you're seeing now, if you're watching the video, I've killed about three visionaries and I've stolen their slabs. So that's why I have access to these powers. And then if you kill a visionary that you've already killed, you pick up upgrades for those powers. So, for instance, one of the powers I
Uh.
have is the ability to stay invisible, and an upgrade to that is like if I kill someone while I'm invisible, they won't leave a trace that they were there. Because enemies in this game disappear when they die, but they leave like I don't know, like ethereal smoke, and that will alert other enemies that something has
Yeah.
happened there, and you can't get rid of that smoke. It's not like you
Okay.
can hide a body or
Yeah.
something. So there's a lot of there's benefit to like, okay, I haven't figured out how to stop the loop here, but I'm gonna go here and kill this visionary again so I get this upgrade, or
Mm.
I'm going to go to this area because if I kill this person, I'll get this weapon, um, stuff like that. But it is still a roguelite.
Yeah, I was gonna
So,
say that to me, just from what you've said, it incentivizes you to replay certain bits. Because I mean, imagine
yes.
you kill Visionary and it's like, cool, you got the power. But you kind of have to kill them again because you're obviously trying to break the loop. So it's
Yes.
cool that they've given you a reason. It's like, no, you do it because you, like you've said, you just get an upgrade or something different. That's cool.
Mhm.
I like that.
Yeah. So there is incentive to kill them multiple times. And so after each loop, so there's two ways where in which the loop resets. If you get to the end of the night, then it just resets you back
Mm.
to the morning. Or every time you're in a district, you've got something called reprise. Uh, and if you die three times, then the loop resets. So
Okay.
it's kind of forgiving where if you die, it will just like rewind you back probably like 2 minutes and you get to
Mm.
go again. And you get that chance like three times and it resets for every time of day.
Yeah.
So it's not like punishing in a roguelike sort of way, like one mistake completely resets you.
Yeah.
But so what was I saying? So yeah, those are the two ways that things reset. But to keep equipment from one run to the next, you use a resource called residium. Oh god.
Mm.
Um, and that is something that you can collect off. I'm sure you've seen in some of the footage. There's
Yeah.
items that are shimmering, so
Mm.
you can absorb it from them, and also visionaries that you kill. You get large amounts of residium there, and then in between your missions, um, in your loadout, you can use residium to basically infuse a weapon, and that means that it's always in your loadout every single
Every
run.
time. Okay.
Yeah. So you do that with weapons, you do that with slabs, your powers, you do that with slab upgrades because the upgrades are equipable. They don't just change your slab, you have to equip them on the slab. So you have to infuse the upgrades as well.
Mm.
That's the same with weapon upgrades, which are just like little modifiers, and the same with character upgrades. So there's a lot that you can infuse during each run, and you've got a very limited amount of residuum each run.
Mm.
So you've got to make very
You're
smart
making
choices about
yeah.
what you think is very valuable to you. And there are some things that are valuable in some cases and very useless in others. Like in this footage now, I have a character upgrade which makes me immune to toxic gas, like you can see,
Yeah.
which is really useful for this particular visionary kill, but is absolutely useless for pretty much
Anywhere
everything
else,
else.
yeah.
So do I burn all that residuum to keep this and potentially lose out on a weapon or,
Mm.
something like that? I found most of the time that just burning my residuum on powers is the most useful thing in the world because the powers really do give you the
Mm.
ability to do incredible things. But I think the more I play, the more I realize that eventually I'm just going to have to figure out ways where I can bundle kills together, like 2-for-1s.
Yeah.
Um, and kind of that's how I'm going to break the loop. And there's a lot more to just in this case here. I killed Harriet, who's one of the visionaries, and she's to me one of the more straightforward ones because you see, I alerted her to the fact that I was there, and she didn't really run away.
She was still just chilling there.
Yeah, she was chill. Like she was ready to fight me, but she was chilling. I have fought other ones where it is much harder, firstly, to get to them.
Mm-hmm.
And also, if they know you're there, things happen.
Okay.
I'm not going to say much more because it really does give away some really
Some
cool
stuff.
surprises. But I would say, like, if you saw this and like, wow, she just kind of like chill, she's easily by far the most straightforward one. The others, there's a handful I haven't even been able to kill because I actually don't know how to get to them.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, listen, there's a lot that this game front loads. The tutorial takes like 2 hours because it's kind of slowly
There's a
introducing
lot of
you.
information to
There's a
get
lot,
through, yeah.
and the one suggestion I would make is at the beginning of the game, it's plopping you into districts. You don't really have control over where you go. It's kind of like telling you where to go while it's introducing you to all the mechanics.
Mhm.
And it makes a point of saying, when you're done with that objective, you can go to the exit. Don't worry, you'll come to this district again. You don't have to poke around. Like,
Okay.
absolutely listen to that.
Yeah.
Because there is no reason for you to stay and poke around the district because you only get the ability to infuse items very late into the tutorial. So you'll be poking around and losing everything.
And then doing nothing of value, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
you're wasting your time. So the game literally tells you that, but I can imagine a lot of people will be like, nah, I want to explore this thing to the fullest. Like, don't waste your time. You are going to come back to each of these districts multiple times.
Yeah.
Like, just get past the initial tutorial and until the game like kind of it does at a point it's like you've learned everything you need to know. Now it's up to you to break this loop and you're free to kind of go and explore. So yeah, it's I guess the only other aspect of it is the sort of asymmetrical multiplayer aspect. It reminds me a lot of Bloodborne and a From game, and
yeah, you get invaded.
A bit like Assassin's Creed in a way. So you can play at the beginning of the game. You choose: do you want to play as Colt, or do you want to play as Juliana, which are basically two different modes. And if you play as Juliana, then you are basically invading other players' games. And she's got her own sort of like upgrade tree, her own sort of powers and weapons. Yeah, and when you invade someone's game, essentially you have to kill them 3 times before they kill you once. But Juliana can disguise herself as any regular enemy, so you can hide in plain sight. You've got very, very cool powers that can really mess. I mean, yesterday I had someone invade my game who was just teleporting around everywhere and absolutely wrecking my shit. So it is fun to play as her. It's a nice little distraction. You can, if you're playing as Colt and you only want an AI-controlled Juliana, you can have that. You can change it to single-player mode. You can also change it to only friends only, so only friends can invade you.
Putting that off, I don't
Um,
want you invading me.
exactly. I did find that in single player mode, Juliana invades your game far fewer times.
Okay.
So, and I really enjoyed the aspect of like I'm busy doing my thing, and next thing it's like Juliana's invaded because
Mm.
she's a threat. Like
Yeah.
she can really turn your run into complete nonsense
Yeah.
very quickly. So I liked being online and having that persistent like anxiety.
Mm.
But she can only invade, I think, once per run. So if
Okay.
she invades in the morning and you kill her, I haven't seen her invade,
Multiple times.
yeah, multiple
Yeah.
times in a run.
Okay.
And there's some runs where she doesn't invade at all.
You're like,
So
thank God.
yeah, thank you. And then one run, like I died. So I was like, okay, well, I was busy with the lead there, so I'm just gonna skip time to that time of day and just carry on there. And as soon as I
Mm.
got into that area, it's like she's invaded again. I was like, fuck,
Oh no.
like, come on,
Is
just leave me alone.
is there incentive for, like, if you do kill her, do you get any,
Yes.
resources or upgrades?
Yes. So if you kill her, she drops a random slab. So any of the
Okay.
any of the
Yeah.
slabs that the other visionaries have, she can drop. So you
Yeah.
can actually pick up an upgrade for a slab like without you know, without having to kill that visionary. She also drops really good weapons.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, so you can see that at the end of the footage, when you leave
Oh,
a district, it's sort of like a end of score screen
yeah.
type thing. It tells you what you achieved. It tells you the sort of knowledge you discovered, and those are added to your leads.
Yeah.
Um, and that is all kept in like a central repository. But again, the game is very good at like giving you waypoints to figure things out. There are puzzles that you'll have to figure out, but I haven't found them like too intense yet. They're very satisfying. It makes you
Mm.
feel smart all the time, and yeah, it shows you all of the stuff that you gather during that particular run. And then you choose like, what do I infuse? You can sacrifice things to get more residium, and you kind of just building up your inventory for eventually your final loop where you take
Mm.
all of your knowledge and kill everyone.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
these
this.
cutscenes are really good. The style of
I
this game
love
is
the
just
style. Yeah.
seriously great.
Yeah.
Really, really good. The dialogue is fantastic. The music's really good, and it runs really well on PS5. It defaults to a performance mode, which I think you shouldn't change because it's like this will run at a solid 60,
Mm.
and you can change it to this will run at 30 but have ray tracing. And I think for a game like this, I
You
would
want
not
the
sacrifice the higher
smoothness.
frame
Yeah.
rate. Yeah,
Yeah. I'd put on just to see what it looks like, but then I'd probably just
Mm.
switch back to.
It's so stylized as well. Like it just looks really good
Yeah.
without any of that sort of stuff. But yeah, I've liked Arkane games in the past. I liked Prey. I've liked Dishonored. I've never loved them in the same way
Mm.
that other people have. I truly am falling in love with this game. Like
Yeah.
it is slick. It feels like the most polished thing Arkane has ever made.
Yeah. That's what I was going to ask. Is you've given a very good overview of how the game plays and stuff, but are you specifically enjoying it? And yeah,
Yeah.
sounds like
Yeah,
you are. So
I'm digging it. Like it was slow going at the beginning, and I was like, I just kind of want to be let loose almost.
Mm.
And even then, when I was let loose, I was having that. I always have this problem with Dishonored where I'm like, does it want me to be stealthy, or does it want me to go like all out?
Mm.
And this game is really good at just playing the way you kind of like feel comfortable. So I go stealthy, and as soon as I get detected, I'm like guns blazing. I'm just killing
Yeah.
everyone, like or running away or stuff like that. And unlike Dishonored, there's no score at the end telling me, oh, you were not stealthy or you killed this many people, whatever. Like Deathloop doesn't give a shit. Like
Mm.
at the end of the day, it's resetting. So it doesn't
you're trying
care.
to break the loop. So
Exactly. It doesn't care if
matter.
you're stealthy or all out. It kind of just it doesn't hit you over the hand saying, no, bad, you weren't stealthy and I like that. I like that I can just play any way I want. I can use as many powers as I want because like your powers are governed by an energy meter that replenishes, so I don't need to keep finding mana everywhere,
Yeah.
to use my powers. I think they've honed the sort of gameplay they've been messing around with in Dishonored over like 2 entries, and this is like the perfect blend of that. It feels
Nice.
seriously good.
Well, as someone who has not played it, I mean, I've been excited for this game since the reveal trailer. I love the style. I think it's very stylistic. Just looks very cool. Like there's no other word to describe it. And yeah, I'm glad you're enjoying it because I'm very keen to dive into it when it does launch. When does it launch?
Yeah.
Is
It launches on
4th?
Tuesday. Yeah, so when you're hearing this, it's out because the embargo
Surprise.
will be just before. Yeah. It's on PS5 and PC. Apparently it's got a year exclusivity on PS5 in terms of consoles, even though Arkane is now owned by Xbox.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is what it is, but it's a good game. I definitely think it's Arkane's best game that I've played, and just very different.
Yeah. It's an intriguing
At first glance,
premise.
it's like this is a roguelite, and it's like yes, but it's also a sort of roguelite that I've never played before. In the same way that Hades was like, yeah, this is a roguelite, but it's got a story that I've never encountered in a roguelike. This is a structure that I've never encountered in a roguelike.
I was just gonna
it's
say
great.
it feels like roguelites as we know have like the mold has been broken. Where Hades was a good example of like, cool, here's the structure, but let's put a real emphasis on story and there being lots of dialogue and incentive to do run. I mean, roguelites always have incentive to do runs, but this was a thing of like, well, I really want to know what happens, so I'm going to keep doing runs. Whereas this feels like it's definitely got elements of roguelite, but there's like an actual sort of progression system or structure to it, which is different.
It feels far more forgiving.
Yeah.
A lot of people hear roguelites and they're like, well, I'm not skilled enough to play those games. And I think developers have sort of understood that, but have found a way to keep the tension of the roguelite feeling with a tangible sense of progression. And, with Hades, that was narrative progression. Every loop, you felt like you were getting some new tidbit of story. In Deathloop, it's the same. It's story, but it's also just like mechanical progression at the same time. It's funny how so many studios came to the same conclusion at around the same time. They were like, what if we make the characters you play in the roguelike aware of the loop? That changes everything. So like Hades did that last year or the year before. You had Loop Hero earlier this year, which did that. You've got Deathloop that's done that now. And it's like they all figured that out individually at the same time, and it's completely redefined what a roguelite is.
How dare you leave out 12 minutes?
Well, we're talking about good games here.
And I mean, it's interesting how, okay, you're 100% spot on, weird how a lot of studios have sort of figured out how to break the structure of a roguelite or roguelike, but how weird that there are just so many time loop games as well. Just a weird million of them. I mean, I actually forgot all about Loop Hero earlier this year, and it's kind of same sort of thing. It's wild. Yeah, it's almost like they go to like a keynote or something, and someone's like, "Yes, this is the new trend here." Time.
They
loop
all
games.
attended
They go,
the same talk at GDC, and they all there like have an epiphany individual.
Like, wow! And then 2, 3, 4 years later, they all come out at the same time in the same period.
I don't know. It's fascinating. I love that roguelite especially is becoming a far more I would say like standard feature of games, because it for the longest time it was reserved to indie titles, and it still is. Like Spelunky was the one that really put this format on the map. And then Hades, I think Hades was the real touch point for a lot of people. And now it's just like kind of, again, it's sort of like the idea of role-playing progression systems that just became a part of adventure games or action adventure games. Like roguelike features are becoming that. But in far more inventive ways. I think it's very smart. And again, I get the the apprehension. A lot of people hear roguelites and they're like, not playing that. Like,
Mm.
you owe it to yourself to play a modern roguelite because they are not the same games.
Yeah.
They are not. Go play Spelunky and then play something like Deathloop, and they could not be two more
They're
different
super
games.
different, yeah.
But they both have elements of the same ideas. Like, so yeah.
Cool.
Deathloop's great. I am thoroughly enjoying it. Gonna play lots more because I'm still like every little layer that I peel away, I'm like, oh, like I can see the setup happening. Like, I'm just like, ooh, this is good, and I'm just having it's a real power trip. Teleporting around and blowing people's heads off. It's real fun.
It's a good
time.
time.
Game is super violent, and I like it.
I love violence. I wake up every morning choosing violence.
I choose violence.
I choose Deathloop. Cool.
That's Deathloop. Good game. Real good game.